Good afternoon and good morning. We have an international attendees for this webinar. Welcome to the Debugging the Model-Driven Behavior webinar, one of the two webinars which we will be giving in the December month. This webinar will be presented and demonstrated by my colleague Richard Grote, who will be going live in a few minutes. Before we're going to go into the presentation and the demonstration, I have a few information points about this webinar. And if Richard can go to the next slide, they're presented over there. Yes, thanks. You're attending this webinar and there's a possibility to ask questions. Those questions can be typed through the Q&A box, and I will monitor the Q&A box during the presentation of Richard. And we have a few moments where we have time for answering the questions, and simple questions which can have a direct answer are answered in the chat itself. That's important to know. And also it's important to know that the webinar itself is recorded, and the link from the webinar will be sent to you after the event. So that's it for the information, and Richard will take over for the webinar itself.
Okay, welcome everybody. I'm Richard Grote from the product development team, and I will show you the webinar about debugging the model-driven behavior. So first, the agenda. So the first will be about the introduction and why we need debugging functionality. Second, we are going to talk about what are the possibilities we currently can use within the BeInformed Studio. And as third, we're going to showcase the new debugging functionality with two of our example projects, Reasons Ground and Company Registry. We're going to use to showcase the hierarchical data within the debugging. Introduction into the debugging functionality. So why do we need debugging functionality? It's all about when we discover unexpected behavior, and we have to investigate what the reasons are, how this is happening. Another reason could be I'm less familiar in the project, and I want to step by step go through the functionality and see and understand how this is working, what is happening. That will help in debugging functionality. In this presentation, there are two sections. So the debugging handlers which we currently have, and the integrated debugging functionality within the studio. So I go to the next slide. We have currently some debugging handlers within BeInformed, which help you to debug of log data, which is currently available on a certain location in the event. That can be done on the preview or on the running environment. It's all based on a logging framework, and you have to specify if you want to debug this or info or warn or error. And you have three debug handlers available. The event data, the process status, and the context data. And we will go into those three handlers separately now. The debug event data. The debug event data will print all the data which is present at a certain location. So if you see on this screen, there is here a debug after the create case. So the create case makes a case within BeInformed, and it showcases here in the logging that there, for instance, is an application case ID with the value 1, a project working title with Enigma, and a start date and a case name. And the other settings which I just mentioned are debug, error, or info, warn can be altered here. And there are two settings for hierarchical, which are on the next slide, which allows you to define if you want to show the parents of the hierarchical data or not, or if you want to show the children or not. And the children, you have one extra choice. Do you want to have the first level of children, or do you want to have all children locked? One drawback of this handler could be that if you press all levels of children, that a lot of information is locked at this moment. And with the new debug functionality, it's better readable, I think, than the previous one. Okay, that's about the normal debugging event data. Then the next one is about debugging process data. That works in combination with the info process handlers and handlers that manipulate process status. Here again, an example that the debug of the process status after the create case. And you see that the data is locked here, which says the case status dot resource count application dot state. That's in progress. You could have more states here, but for now it's just one simple for one concept. With the scope, you could filter parts of this of the process status, which is currently not used here. And then the last one, I think already, is the debug handler with debug context data. Context data is data that's frequently available. For instance, the user ID, the organization ID, the URI that has been called, the case properties that has been available. So those are all stated here. And in this example, you see that the user ID is apparently 2, the user and organization is being formed, the case ID is 26, and etc., which is just shown in the logging. Maybe I'm going too fast, but this is how it's currently working within the inform, what you can do.
Yes, thanks, Richard. Yeah, such Q&A blocks, and for people that attended a little later on, in my introduction, I mentioned already that yeah, you can ask questions through the Q&A, and we have 3 sections where we are going to answer the questions when they're not answerable directly in the chat. Yeah, this is quite the current functionality which is already available. So I didn't see any questions yet about this functionality. I think it's really important, as Richard already mentioned, we included these sections, the 3 different categories of debugging data in the presentation, because it's coming back in the debugging embedded debugging functionality as well. So it's good to know that we have 3 different categories of data: the event data, the process status data, and the context data. And you will see it coming back directly when Richard is going to go to the new embedded debugging functionality. And there are no questions, so yeah, Richard, let's go on and go to the embedded debugging functionality.
Okay, thank you, Wijnand. Integrated debugging functionality. That's available within previewing the model-driven behavior. We don't need additional configuration. So what you just saw, that I had to do additional configuration on a lot of locations to get extra information in the log file. And another thing what I don't get is that I can't step over handlers, so I can't go to the next hand, to the next, to the next, to the next, to inspect all those situations. Then I need to do a lot of debugging handlers within the configuration to showcase that. We already documented a lot about the debugging functionality, and is available on Plaza. So please read it. And if you have any questions or remarks, please let us know. And I will first go to the screens which are differently with the new debugging functionality. Okay? And I will start on the top left. Okay? This icon is already there. So if you press this one, you're running a web application. For instance, there are here two, a web application with a back-office layout and a web application back-office layout with an in-memory database. And there is a new button there that's called debugging, and that reuses the same launch configuration. So it doesn't matter where you create the launch configurations, it's using the same ones. So if you want to start a debug session, you don't press the green arrow, but you're using the other one. And then it will start a debugging session, and it will just pop up in the browser, which is normally also there, and I will showcase this later on. Then the other thing what you have to do is to add breakpoints. You can add breakpoints in the outline just by right-clicking on an handler and say add breakpoint. Within the browser, if that happens, and you hit the breakpoint, it will stop the application. It will pause the application. And within the BeInformed Studio, this screen is opened with the new debugging perspective. So you're switching from the modeling perspective to the debugging perspective. You get all kinds of new views, which I go into a second. And it will stop there. You will still see the editor, which is always there, but the other screens are a little bit hidden. What new screens do you get? The most important one is the variables, which in this case shows already some data which was also previously shown with the handlers. For instance, the case ID was in the context data. The event data was in the debug event data. The process status was within the process handler. So this is completely new, and I will showcase that later on. Another one is over here. That's called the call stack items. That will show the parent of the current one. So for instance, I'm stopping at the perform register. The parent is store handlers. So you see that I can see here that the store handlers are. And on top of that is the event, and on top of that is the form. Another little change is the menu bar here. There are some new buttons here. The most important ones are those three. One is called step over. Step over means go to the next handler. The other one is step into. That means if you can go into the handler, for instance, an execute event goes to another event, so you can step into that one. Or for each handler, you can step into it because you go a little bit lower. But a normal set value handler you can't go into. So that is you can only step over. So handlers containing other handlers you can step into. And the last one is step out. And then you're stepping out the previous one and you go back to the previous handler. So this is an overview what's currently shown if you go to the debugger. And I will demonstrate this with the resource grant application. A small introduction into the resource grant application. Resource grant application is available on Plaza. You can download it, you can use it. And it consists of 4 domains: the channel, the product, the case, and the register. And it's a simple application to apply for a resource grant. You see the case here that registers registers for a resource grant. That creates a case that looks up an applicant, creates resource project details, and even starts a time limit. We will go. We will show that later on. Now I'm going to switch to beinformed. This is the wrong one because this is the correct one. again, this is the resource grant application, which does lookup and creates all the other stuff. Yeah. So I can now choose how to start it. Yeah. I have the debug or the run. If I open the debug, I see the debug configuration. So this is very similar to the run configuration, because when I switch to the run, it's just reusing the same. The major change is over here that stated run or debug. So now we'll start the resource. That's not what I want. I already started an application. I wasn't aware of that. I will do that later on. Trying it again. So this is the resource grant application. Go that. I have to rebuild to get some users in, and also to get some applicants in. I'm logging in as Arnold. And I can apply for a resource grant application. I'm just searching for one of the applicants. Next, I can submit some details. And now I've created my first resource grant application. And what if I see this screen and I think, okay, this is unexpected behavior, then I can go back to the studio and, for instance, look up that event. That's just what I'm going to do. I will add a debug point here. So I open the event. I'm going to the first handler within the store handlers. I'm right-clicking on that event or on that handler, and I will press toggle breakpoint here. And that's the only thing what I'm doing. I will go back to the browser and I will apply for a new resource grant. I will choose again an applicant. I will press another title and some starting date, and I will press create resource grant application. At that moment, it automatically switched back to my Beinform Studio. And I get the choice, do I want to switch to the debug perspective? And I can also say, remember my decision. So I will switch. Now you will see it will stop here. I can also look at the variables. And I open this event data and I see applicant case ID 2. So apparently I've chosen applicant number 2. I pressed in the project working title. I added there the beta, and I apparently choose 14 to 2023. That's the data that I've put in. Now I can look at, for instance, what the first handler is going to do. So I'm going to go there just in the editor. What is this editor? What is this going to do? It will change the case name and it will prefix it with request for project. Now can I go back to the debug points where I was? I can click here. So now I'm back at where I was. I still see the data there. And now can I say, okay, I want to see what is happening in this event of in this handler. So I can do step into. And I will come in this handler. And now I can look at the event data. Hey, the event data is now missing information here. That's about, of it's missing, it's correct what's showing now, because this handler group stated I only wanted the project working title. So all the other data which was privileged here is not available anymore here, because you don't put it in because the data definition doesn't specify that. I can even go back where I was starting, yeah, and then I see the data which is on this point. Go to this one, yeah, because I was on that location, yeah. And what's the location where we stop? Yeah, we're stopping just before this handler is executed. Yeah, if you press the go to the next one, step over, yeah, it will normally go to the next handler, but in this case it will stop at the end of this handler. So if you are on the latest handler, it will stop just before going back to the caller, because then you can see what is happening in this handler group, what was happening with this case name. So when I press go to the next of step over, yeah, I'll see that the case name is changed to request for beta, and that's exactly what he's doing here. Yeah. If I press again, step over, it goes back to where it's called, yeah, and now I'm at the beginning. I have to create new resource grant application. Yeah. The event data has some extra data now here, the case name. Yeah. Has no process status because I don't do anything with process status yet. And the context data I didn't show yet. Yeah, but there's a tab, apparently I'm using the resource grant application tab, and I'm logged in as user ID 2, that's called Arnold, and some URIs I'm currently using. I can go to the next handler. I can use also shortcuts. And again, he created a new resource grant application and that case ID, because that's very important. Normally in projects, we put that on the top level, but the case is now created. I can step and step and step. What I also can do is create a new breakpoint. I create a new one. And that new one is over here. And I can do step to where I want to go, but I can also create a new one and say resume. Resume goes to the next breakpoint. If there are no breakpoints there, it will just continue to the end. So now it stops here. And I even have some process data here. So for instance, the applicant state is available, the register is completed, the resource grant application is in progress, the project details are available, and the response time, which is the timeline that is running. Currently, I can only continue now. And if I go back, this could happen. This is not an issue within the presentation. This is happening because my browser says, okay, the event is allowed to do, I think, 30 seconds by default. Because I'm debugging, it will stop. My browser will say there is a timeout, and the back office layout will show you an error page. So it could happen if you are debugging that your browser will show timeouts, because you don't know how long it will take for stepping through all those handlers. But the event itself, because I just can't continue, has been created. It's only the browser which will show you, okay, the duration of that event is now taking too long time. I think this is all what I wanted to show you within the resource grant application, I think. Yes. Then I will go to the PowerPoint slide. This was the debugging slide. We have some time for questions about this integrated debug functionality in the resource grant example. Otherwise, I will switch to the company register.
Yes. There are questions, Richard. Thanks for demonstrating. there are a few questions. One of them I have answered in the Q&A box. There was the question about is it possible to change variable event data values in the inspect view, or can you only view them? It is only possible, not possible to change the variables. So it's only possible to view the data in the variables view on the top right corner of the debug.
Yeah,
so you cannot change it.
I will show what people are referring to. So I'm still here. Is it possible to change this working title here? Yeah, that's the question, I think.
Yeah.
That's currently not allowed.
No, that's read only. But that's the answer to that question. And then we have a few questions, and there's a few popping up as well in the meantime. But I will go through them. And the first one is probably one for you, Richard. The question is it built on top of the Java debugging infrastructure built in the ERA? And if so, do you support remote debugging?
That's a difficult one to answer. It's built on both on top of the debugging framework of Eclipse, and that is using the Java debugging framework also. Yeah, and it should be possible to do remote debugging, but currently that's not built in.
Yeah. So that's the answer currently, and yeah, we're exploring more and more functionality in here, and also yeah, I'd like to hear your feedback on the functionality and explore what are the possibilities for the future. But that's the current status of the debugging functionality. Then the next question. How does the debugger deal with start camel route handlers? Specifically, if we have many cases where we call camel route, which in turn calls a be-informed event again via services, is it possible to step into this camel handler? I don't think it's possible because it's loosely coupled.
Yes, this is correct. You can't step into the camel handler. Yeah. If the camel handler calls be informed again through an event operation or through a service operation, you could add a debug point there, and you could end up there. That's possible. But that are both separate processes. So it would be hard to do that, I think.
I will publish the questions after this question block, by the way. Is there a break on exception option?
I don't know that question. Is there? Does that person mean if it's possible to have an expression on a breakpoint?
I don't know. Probably Thomas. The question is from. Can add some extra details on this question. Put in a new question. Then we are going to answer it in the next upcoming block or at the end or afterwards. So yeah. That's probably related to the question from another one, and that's do we foresee conditional breakpoints? And conditional breakpoints, yeah, indeed, that means having stated in a certain situation where you state if a certain condition has a value, can we step into? And currently that's not possible. So if you want to conditionally stop at a certain point, you have to include a conditional handler inside your configuration and put a, for instance, logging or a debug handler inside, where you can place a debug or a breakpoint on. So it is possible, but then you have to configure a little bit with an extra conditional handler. What happens with the debugging when there is an app error? Richard, can you answer that one?
It's just as when there is when you're doing a normal run. There is no difference, I think. Yeah? If there is an error, yeah, it will show that error and in the application, and it will show the error in the console. Yeah, and it will stop debugging.
Yeah. Okay. I think there are quite a lot of questions, and I have to also consider time. Let's see. There's another one, which is it possible to debug asynchronous events? So schedule event, but also you have the execute event inside our handlers, and you have the execute event, which does a synchronous event, so directly goes into the execution of the event in the same transaction. Then obviously you can step inside, etc. But with an asynchronous event, you can't directly step inside because it is scheduled later on and not directly executed within the event which you're executing at the moment. Richard, add on my comments if you have some extra details here.
Yes, you can't do that directly. You could do that indirectly if I don't have it here, but you could add if you have an execute event which is asynchronously and it's calling this event, I can just put a debug point here, and when it's actually executed at a certain stage, it will hit this breakpoint and it will also pause, and you get a new request here. So that should work. But if you're doing the scheduler and you're saying schedule this over 3 days, then you have to wait for 3 days before you hit that breakpoint.
Okay. And the question on is there a break on exception option? The extra information what he means that is break when an exception occurs. So clarify. I would want to start it in debug mode and tell the application to stop at any point just before an exception would be thrown.
Okay. That is a functionality that's in some programs. For instance, the Eclipse IDE also supports that. No, that's currently not in it. So we could not add a breakpoint here, which I didn't show yet. We couldn't get a breakpoint here that says, okay, stop on every on any exception.
Yeah. Okay. Those are the questions. I will process them and publish them in the meantime. And Richard, if you can continue with your demonstration with the second part, then you can read the questions in the published section of Q&A in the upcoming minutes.
Yeah, I forgot to mention this one. I will show that now, because when I closing all my editors, and I did that by accident, and I said, okay, where are my debug points? Where are my breakpoints? Then I just have a few here with the breakpoints, and I just can click on it, and I just see where my breakpoints are. I even can turn them off. So if I'm now running the application, do a new resource grant for somebody. I just turn that off and it just works. I can do even turn one off. So this one isn't available there, and you also see it here. There's a little small blue circle here instead of a filled circle here. And you can even remove them all. And now I don't have any breakpoints, so if I now continue, it will just function as normal. Okay, then I go back to the presentation. Then I will demonstrate with the company register integration example. I have to start that up. This is the resource. This is the company register. Go to the presentation. First, a little introduction about the company register integration example, which will be demonstrated more in depth in the other webinar coming up next week. This is about service operations. So this is calls that's coming in from outside, and I will showcase this within the Swagger API, which just supplies a JSON file for registering one or more companies. And that's all the details I will do for now, I think. Then we'll go to the application. We'll shut down this one, so I don't have that. So here the same. I have here the debug configuration, which I already have, and the run configuration is the same. So I will just start company register. I will do a rebuild debate for creating users. I can begin with system. Welcome. And which I already mentioned, I'm not going to do it directly in the user interface, but I'm going to use the Swagger client. First, I will register some companies. I've prepared that with an example message, which is also completely available on Plaza. So this is the message I will use with 3 companies in it. I will execute it. And you will see there are now 3 companies within the application: Be Informed, Acme, and Kodak. Now I can go to the cat company REST.js, and that one I will go debugging, because that's apparently giving unexpected behavior. So I will try this out. I will also have a message here, an example message, because I can't remember those numbers. And if I execute this normally, it will give me a lot of response. I can go into the application, which is this service operation. This service operation has an event, get companies, with a lot of input data and result data there. And I will add a breakpoint on the top level. And I can switch automatically here because I saw that my breakpoints are turned off, and I will turn them on. Which will stay here. And if I now press execute, it will also go to my Beaverform Studio. I can do switch. And again, I'm in an application. I see the event here. I see that it is calling here for each identification number. I can show you the variables. So those are the 3 numbers I've added within the Swagger API. And now I can say, okay, let's step into. So and I'm going to the next handler. In this case, the find company. And if I opening this thing, you see these are the complete list, and this is the current list for this handler. I even can go back again here, so I can go back to the for each, and this to the find company. So now I can press. I'm going to the next one, and it stays at the same location because it's going to the next company that I have to discover. And you can already see that it's also happening because it has already collected some company, and you will see that over here. So he has one company loaded from the database, and the company is called beinformed with this identification number. So if I go to the next one, it's good, then it will open Acme. So I have two companies now, 3 companies if it's, that's all that are in. And if I go to this one, the execute event, can even add a debug point here somewhere to see more data. Took a breakpoint. I will go back to the location where I was. So find a company. I go to the next one, and now he has 3 parts of the company loaded. A little bit of beinformed, a little bit of Acme, a little bit of codec, and now for every company, it will do the execute event get company. And in this event, he will load additional company data. It will load CEO data. It will load CFO data if it exists. He tries to find it, and if it exists, it will continue in this handler group and execute event. If it hits this breakpoint and the breakpoint evaluates to false, it will not continue in this one. So I can press resume, so that I'm over here, and now I can open the context data, and as you can see, there is a lot of data here, which is done in this top level about the CEO case name, the CEO name. He has already loaded some additional information for me. He loaded the CEO home contact details. He already loaded the company contact details. And I think this is a huge advantage for this handler instead of that other handler where all the information was displayed here. And now you can select selective choose whatever you want to see. The CFO exists. I can find that. That's existing. So I can even, if I press go into, it will go into that one. It will even go to more information. If I do resume, it will go to the next company and collect also that kind of data. Also, the CFO exists, and it will also be able to step into that one. And the last one, I think, it doesn't have a CFO, is false, and you cannot step into that. So I won't get here. If I do step into, it will go back to the other event where I was at the end. And I can now see what's completely done in this huge event. I can see the complete company. This is the beinformed application of the beinformed company with the number of CEO, CFO, and home details. I can open the business contact details. And this can be more nested if needed. Currently, I think there is only one level deep, but this can be as much as you want. And I can even go back to the store handlers where only these 3 numbers are added. And apparently at the end, all this data is available in the event. This is what I wanted to show you with for the hierarchical data. So I will continue this one. This is with a slide for demonstrating the register integration example that I already did. Then I give the mic to Wijnald.
Yes, thank you, Richard. Thanks for the demonstration and the presentation. I think it's good to mention that the last part, including the demonstration of the company register integration example and the functionality using services, hierarchical data, and etc., is extensively explained in the upcoming webinar next Thursday, so upcoming week, with our colleagues Erwin and Daf, and that is going to explore much more about that functionality. As said, especially hierarchical data, etc., is really visible now inside the debugging perspective. It really helps to get a clear insight how this is working. In the meantime, I published a lot of questions in the Q&A and put some quick answers inside. What we are going to do after this webinar is that we are going to re-evaluate the questions and going to answer them probably a little bit more extensive. We're going to publish that. I think we're going to create a Plaza page for it. So that is then it's available for reference information. And we can also reference Plaza information and include extra Plaza information if needed. There are no extra questions compared to the last question block. So I hope you enjoyed the webinar and gives you some insights on how to use the debugging functionality inside our AMS Studio. We think it's really worthwhile using and really helps to get insights on the behavior of the application. And a lot of times that's when you are going to address issues and do issue resolving, but it also really helps to get an insight on the behavior of the application. What is it really actually going to execute? Which flow is it going to execute in which handlers are going to be executed? I think the debugger really helps to get clarified what is the path which is executed, and we think it's a really nice functionality. And thanks Richard for demonstrating, and hope you join as well next week. As said, we come back with some more information on the questions, and see you later. Thank you.